Go ahead, try to get away from it. I triple dog dare you to try to get away from the coverage of the Boston Marathon bombings. It's practically impossible. In fact, if you're watching me right now, chances are one, if not all of the televisions behind me are covering it in some capacity. So as adults, we may be trying to limit our exposure to it, and as parents, we may be trying to shield our kids from it. But they go to school, they talk with their friends, they pass by televisions in the store, and you may be getting some questions as to what's happened and how do you answer them. Parents are struggling with that right now because that answer develops and evolves over time as our children get older and as they become more age appropriate for what they can learn. But how do you go about answering those questions? You know, I found myself in a situation Monday night after everything that had developed in Boston. I'd gone home, my husband had just gotten home himself, and he'd been pretty isolated in the office all day, so he was asking me a bunch of questions, and we had a discussion. Soon after, he walked into the living room, picked up the remote to go to turn on the television, but he paused, and he stopped, and he turned around, and he looked, and he saw my daughter, Riley. She's 3.5. And he put down the remote and said, "Yeah, I don't want her to see this," and he walked off. And then she looked at me and goes, "See what, Mommy?" Great. I looked at her and I said, "Daddy just wanted to see a race." "What race?" "A race that happened today." "Oh." And she goes back to coloring. I answered her honestly, but I didn't give her too much information. Listen, I'm no parenting guru. You know, this is the first time I've ever raised a 3.5-year-old, but I am trying to learn for ways to have those difficult conversations if and when they pop up. So I've seen some interviews from child behavioral psychologists, and I've read a lot as well, and maybe what I've learned can help you. Here's what I've taken away. 1, keep it simple, and don't give too much information. Make sure it's age appropriate as well. You know, we tend to go on and on and on as adults and ramble when all that can do for kids is actually create more anxiety. Kids will ask questions, and then when they've heard enough, they'll stop asking. So just kind of use that as a gauge. Be there to talk to them and be willing to listen and communicate. Just knowing that you're there could be the greatest comfort to your child. Obviously, limit the exposure to the televisions and the media out there. And you know what, though? If your kid sees it, you can take a page out of the Mr. Rogers playbook, and that is something that his mom told him when he was young. That in a crisis, look for the helpers. They're always there. You know what, it's not bad advice for us adults either to look for the helpers. I know I would rather see the good of many than the evil of a few.